Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today I'll be covering part 3 to a pretty popular story I covered about 2 weeks ago, which is titled, Wife of 7 Years Opened Our Marriage Without My Knowledge, Has Breakdown When I Toss Her Plus the Suitcase Out. And guys, as a recap, because it's been 2 weeks, that's about the guy, like he said, married 7 years, thought he had a good marriage, and then one day he came home from work early because his wife was about to go on a work trip, I use that in air quotes there, and overheard her on the speakerphone talking to a guy who she was planning to actually go on a little lover's weekend with. Heard the whole thing, confronted her, and because she was so certain this guy wasn't going anywhere, that he was a wimp and a simp and all that, that she gaslighted him, made him feel like a complete fool, but this guy wasn't having it, and eventually tosses her out and her suitcase, as well as the guy that was meeting her at the house. And imagine that. Oh, and by the way, he also, I almost forgot, he also, whoosh, you know what I'm getting at here. I can't actually say those words. And anyhow, after that happened, whoa, she had an epiphany. She was so wrong, and she loves him so much, and take me back. Well, he wasn't having it. So now we're going to go into part 3, what's going on here. And by the way, guys, since you like to know these things in advance, this is a long update. So this will be broken into part 3, 4, and 5. All done and published within 2 hours of each other. So if you guys don't want to, you want to wait so you can hear things back to back, you can obviously stop now and come back later. But otherwise, watch this one now. Part 4 will be in 2 hours. Part 5 will be 2 hours after that. So you get the whole thing today. So I just want to be transparent here. It says here, hello SSM. First off, thank you for running my story and for your advice and the advice of your subscribers. There was an incredible number of comments, and I think I read all of them. Probably about 95% of those who gave advice thought I should run from my marriage and not even consider reconciliation. Yeah, I was one of them. That was also my inclination, but I asked for help to see if anyone could provide good reasons to stay with my wife. I didn't find any. Not in this channel. Here's my thinking. Number 1, my wife Beth made plans to spend the weekend with her coworker Tom. 2, she lied to me about it, telling me she was going to go for training. And 3, when I discovered her plans to cheat on me, she told me she was going to spend the weekend with him whether I liked it or not. Yeah, the nerve of her. She said she's her own woman, more than just my wife, and free to do as she pleases. Further, there should be no consequences for her behavior. It's just SCX, something that she has to get out of her system, and I should get over it. Yep, that's pretty much the gist of what she told you, and there's no coming back from that. That goes to show how confident she was this guy wasn't going anywhere. And also how confident I am that she doesn't love you one bit. She actually started to go out the door and leave with the guy for the weekend. I think any of those actions alone is enough to end the marriage. There's no conceivable way back from all these betrayals. Exactly. She told me that I knocked some sense into her when she was leaving. You certainly did. Maybe. Or maybe she finally realized there'd be actual consequences for her behavior. Or perhaps she thought it would be better to ditch her plans for that one weekend to be able to cheat on another day. Doesn't matter though, our marriage is over. The trick now is to get the best possible settlement I can. Everything I write about here is my attempt to achieve that end. I will let my father-in-law and Beth believe that reconciliation is still possible, but my marriage to Beth is over. Don't think I've changed my mind about it. I have not. Okay, so he obviously has to play his cards right here to get the best deal. If it means, pretending to reconcile when he's actually not, so be it. So before any of you guys want to jump out of your skin or tar and feather me or him about this whole thing, just hear him out. It's a couple weeks since the original post. Let me bring everyone up to date. I threw Beth out 2 Fridays ago. Her father picked her up from my front porch and took her to her parents' house. Beth sent me a long email with a long list of all the things she'll do if I agree to take her back. Post-nup, polygraph, complete transparency, etc. She said she took a job at a different real estate office, so I'll know she's finished with Tom. Her father called me following Tuesday and asked me about my plans regarding Beth. I told him I haven't decided anything yet, but Beth should stay away. I wasn't ready to see or talk to her. He said she's been wearing her mother's clothes, and if she starts work at the new job the following week, she needs her car and her clothes. I told him I'll pack her stuff, and when they're ready to come by, I'll put it on the porch. I don't want to be here when they come. She's wearing her mom's clothes. That's funny. When I was throwing her stuff from our coat closet in plastic bags, I found her second phone. in the side pocket of her winter coat. A clever place to conceal the phone since the coat closet is near the front door. She can hide it in the coat pocket as soon as she comes home and grab it right before she leaves the house. I turned the phone on. It was almost fully charged, so she's been using it and keeping it charged. But it's password protected. I kept the phone, and maybe I'll figure out the password and look through it one day. For now, let Beth worry that I have her secret phone. Yeah, keep her worrying. All you need to do is find some 17-year-old Gen Zer. I'm sure he'll figure it out. If it's an Apple phone, take it to the Apple. Take it to the Genius Bar at the Apple Store or something. Bribe some kid to hack it. Once I decided that Beth and I were finished, I needed to tell my parents. I texted my mom on Wednesday, coming for dinner, okay? And she responded, of course. This will be devastating for my mom. Beth and my mom were always very close. I wanted my text to be ambiguous about who exactly was coming to dinner. My mom would have already called me if Beth told her what happened. I didn't want a phone call from her asking why Beth wouldn't be with me. Better to explain everything in person. Well, don't wait too long. You got to control the narrative. Beth could already be getting her clutches on your mom. When I arrived, my mom looked for Beth in concern, asking where Beth was. Is she okay? I said, let's get Dad and we got to talk. I explained what happened last Friday, a very sanitized version, but with enough detail for them to fully understand how horribly Beth behaved. When I described Beth's reaction to my finding out about her weekend plans, how Beth seemed to think it was no big deal for her to go off and have SCX with another man, my mother said that was my mother-in-law talking. What? My mother was sure Beth's mom put all that nonsense into Beth's head. My mother asked me if it was okay for her to talk to Beth about this. Why? What the fuck's the point? Unless she wants to tear her a new one, then okay. She wanted to find out what Beth could possibly have been thinking. I told my mother she can talk to whoever she wants to, but I'm going to divorce Beth. My mother was upset, but she didn't tell me not to divorce Beth and that I should think more about it. My father never says anything at these family talks. He always waits until he and I are alone to tell me what he thinks. Does he do that because he wants to soak in all the information, which is wise, or does he do that because he doesn't want to upset your mom? If it's option B, smack to your dad. We had a very somber dinner. When I got to leave, my dad said he'd walk me to the car. He told me he wants to talk to me about my uncle, my mother's sister's husband, as well as talk to him. Why? My uncle has been through this, and talking to him might be helpful. He'll have my uncle give me a call. I haven't seen my uncle in years. He doesn't come to my family gatherings. Maybe there's a reason for that. He and my aunt are still together, and I occasionally see my two cousins, but not my uncle. My father and uncle have remained friends over the years. They go hunting a few times a year, and I used to go with them when I was in high school, but haven't since I went away to college. I don't think I've seen my uncle since my last hunting trip. I asked my dad if he thought I was doing the right thing in divorcing Beth. He said yes, and that's what he wants me to talk to my uncle about. That surprised me. I expected at least some issue with him. So I had sent my attorney Beth's long email promising that she'd do anything if I'd take her back. Good, I'm glad you're already with a lawyer. My attorney and I met again the following afternoon. I decided to tell him everything about our confrontation, how Beth ended up on the front lawn with a torn dress. Oh, I'm sure your attorney has words about that, as well as your slap. He listened and asked if we had similar confrontations in the past. Never. Was there ever a police report or arrest? No. He asked if anyone saw what happened inside the house. No. Tom, waiting for Beth to leave with him, was in his car in my driveway to the left of the front door if you're looking out. The door was only open to a crack. He did see me put Beth on the front lawn with her torn dress. Did Beth tell anyone what happened? I don't know, but I've talked to her father. If she told him, he didn't say anything to me. If she told her dad that you cracked her one, I'm sure regardless of the situation, the dad would be at your house trying to whoop your ass. Right or wrong, as a father would. Well, most fathers. And he's the type of guy who have definitely said something to me about any mistreatment of his daughter. My attorney said it was a mistake to do what I did. Well, your attorney's right. No one can blame you here, but in the eyes of the law and divorce, that was a mistake. Also, there was no way to legally help Beth out of the house. Keep Beth out of the house, especially since she and I own the house together. He said the last time he and I met, I didn't seem sure that I wanted to divorce. Now I do. What do I want to get out of the divorce, he asked. I told him I want the house we live in. We purchased the house about 3 months earlier. I emptied my savings and sold my stocks to pay cash for the house since interest rates were so high. The house was purchased almost entirely with the money I earned, saved, and invested. I want the house, and I don't want to give Beth a dime for her half. Beth believes in dress for success and spends most of her income on clothes and hairdressers. Shocker. And on the incredible expensive Mercedes she leased for herself shortly after we bought the house. She pisses all. I get you got to dress for your job, don't get me wrong, and play the part in the look, but obviously she takes it to a whole new level. I don't think it hurts her too much to spend all her money on shoes and outfits and leasing the Mercedes, which he doesn't own, things like that. Meanwhile, this guy's putting his money in stocks and investing it and use the profits from the stock and the principal from the stock to purchase the house in full so he doesn't have to pay Bank of America, 7.5% interest rate mortgage, whatever the hell it was at the time, for a long time. We had a huge argument about the car and I refused to co-sign the lease. Very smart. The house purchase pretty much cleared us out and I wanted to start rebuilding. The monthly payment on the car is way more than we can afford, but she went ahead and leased it anyway on her own. She said she can't drive clients around just any old car. The car is our biggest monthly payment. Oh, give me a freaking break. My realtor, who deals with millionaire clients, sells million-dollar houses here in South Florida, she didn't drive a fucking Mercedes or anything equivalent to that. Drives a nice car, but she dresses well. She was recommended to me by a friend in Massachusetts, did a good job helping me out. And she doesn't go around driving in that, and she does quite well. So, come on here. I also don't want to pay her alimony. I earn more than she does, but she can support herself. I want a clean break, no contact at all, and as quick as a divorce as possible. My attorney said there were 3 issues. Maybe we can get all 3 birds with one stone. I have a problem because of the confrontation. Huh? You bet your butt, man. Luckily, there were no witnesses. Hopefully, Beth is not telling anyone who will listen about it. We need to let time pass before Beth decides to use it against you. Mark my words, my friend, she is going to use it against you as leverage. Guaranteed. Yes, you have no witnesses, but this still all it takes is her saying what happened, and that's that. Second, you want the house without paying for her anything. Am I willing to dangle reconciliation? That I'll consider getting back together if she signs over her half of the house to me right now. I said yes. He said that'll be more difficult for a judge to tell you to sell the house and give Beth half if you're already the sole owner. We want the house free and clear now because the judge is not going to award it to you in a divorce. He told me to immediately separate our finances, take half the money in our joint account and move it to my own account. You should have done that from the get-go, my friend. There's not enough there to fight over, so just leave Beth her half. Cancel all your joint credit cards and get my own credit card. Again, you should have done that from the beginning. Your wife should not be on your fucking credit cards, guys. Tell Beth what I did, but only after it's done. Third, we want a post-nup that gives us each of us only what's in our name when we divorce, and no alimony. If things go as planned, when we get divorced, the house will be in my name, so I'll get that. Any money I earn from now on will go into my own bank account. I asked if the post-nup will hold. Won't a judge throw it out if she claims that she signed under duress? Good question. He said, when I start divorce proceedings, she will certainly challenge the post-nup, but I didn't force her to sign anything. It's a negotiation, not a hostile situation. I gave her a choice. She can always propose a divorce under different terms, or she can just do nothing. She's not under any obligation to do anything if I ask her to do it. There is no duress. Just because there's no duress doesn't mean she can't claim that there's duress. But the judge can do anything the judge wants. Ding, ding, ding. Judges today side with the wife in a divorce. In a no-fault state like ours, Beth's dreadful behavior won't factor in. That's why it's better to do everything now, keep everything between Beth and me, and put off seeing a judge as long as I can. I started a protest, but he asked me to hear him out. Delaying the divorce will address all 3 issues. Beth will threaten to expose our confrontation before she tried to leave for her weekend with Tom, probably make up some stuff. She won't use that until divorce is imminent, or she begins to think that I'm lying about reconciliation. Remember, amigo, don't underestimate your enemy, and she ain't stupid. She's an asshole, but she's not stupid. And listen to your motherfucking lawyer. So I want her to believe that reconciliation is possible for us as long as I can. It's a no-fault state, so she can't bring that up in the divorce. If she tries to, we'll bring up why there's a confrontation in the first place. But she'll try to blackmail me in the hopes of getting a better divorce terms, or get me to accept reconciliation. The longer she waits to use it against me, the less credible her claims will be. Okay, very good point there. The same thing applies to the house. If she signs over the house to me now, the longer I have sole title to the house, the more likely a judge will say the ownership of the house has already been settled. We want it to be a done deal long before we ever see the judge. Noticing a pattern here, guys, avoid the judge as long as possible, or if not at all. Although that's certainly not possible. And it's the same thing with the post-nup agreement. The longer it's in effect without a protest from Beth, the less likely even the most sympathetic judge will invalidate it. Again, we will argue that the post-nup was already settled business long before the divorce, so the judge doesn't have to weigh in. And we want to be able to say it was settled long, long ago. I'll just have to wait a significant amount of time before filing for divorce. I told my attorney that won't work for me. Dude, I don't blame you. I don't blame you wanting to pretend to reconcile and be with the B for a freaking year, but play the long game here. Women are great at playing the long game. Guys, we got to play the long game when necessary. Okay, it sounds like a drag strip behind me here. What the hell? I want nothing to do with her. I want to be rid of her now. He said to me, tell her I want to be separate for a while. I can't live with her yet. We have to take it slow. Maybe tell her that after a while, she and I can go on a date or something like that. Whatever. But right now, tell Beth she and I cannot be together. He said he'll drop a separation agreement, which includes the post-nup. The signed separation agreement will become the foundation of the later divorce settlement. Okay. He continued that there is no downside for me. I can see her or not see her during the extended separation. We can continue to file joint tax returns, which will undoubtedly save me on the taxes. He has clients who have been separated for 25 years. Crazy judges make it too lethal for men to divorce, so they don't divorce. One of my lawyer's clients has been separated almost 20 years and told him that he's the happiest married man he knows. Why? Because he hasn't had any contact with his wife in years. That's the only way to be happily married. Oh my God. When I'm ready, say I want to marry again, I can go ahead with the divorce. I need to get the house, do a post-nup and a formal separation now, divorce later. He also said, look, when we get a divorce, a judge can toss out the post-nup, give her back her half of the house, and even, if he wants, give her half of the house too. The judge can decide to throw out anything Beth and I have agreed upon. Judges can do whatever they want. In no-fault states, when there's no children, the judge usually splits the divorcing couple's joint assets down the middle. They seem to like awarding alimony. Oh, yes, they do. They don't care if it's fair. We don't want Beth and me to own anything together. But I'm taking our biggest asset, the house, away from Beth. I want to establish that the house has been solely mine for a significant amount of time before we see a judge. We don't want the judge to think I made promises to get the house, then immediately renege on those promises and file for divorce. You know, there's a lot of dumbass judges out there, but they're not all dumbasses. And yes, they've been around the block. They'll be able to see through this. He said, look at it like this. Say I get the house and get the post-nup signed, but like his other client, I remain separated from Beth for 20 years. I own the house and I lived in it without Beth for a very long time, which is more likely. The judge will reverse a settlement that Beth and I lived within for 20 years, or a reverse settlement that Beth is protesting, and the ink on the paperwork is still wet. He said it doesn't need to be 20 years, but the longer the better. Until judges change their outlook, stay away from them. If I need a divorce in the future, they'll be no worse off and probably much better than if I filed today. I already have what I want, and when we see the judge, instead of hoping the judge will grant me what I want, he will not. I told him Beth said she'll do all this post-nup and polygraph crap if I take her back. I'm not going to live with her. What if she refuses to do any of this unless she's back in the house? He repeated, just tell her that it's too soon for her to move back in. I need my space now. It's my job to convince her to fulfill the promises that she made to do whatever I want. If I cannot, we serve her the divorce agreement with no alimony and she gives me the house. She'll tell the judge that she doesn't want to divorce. Right. Bro, I get this is torture and you want to be rid of her, but you have to play a long game. You have it in you. The judge may order marriage counseling. He will. And will probably award her alimony for a time and order you to split the proceeds from the sale of the house. Why let a judge do this to me? We're not going to find a judge who's going to treat me fairly, so let's just keep judges out as long as we can. If there's no judge, there's no court orders and I have to comply with. Let's get the property and post-nup settled now and wait as long as possible to file for divorce. Forever if I can make that work. Time works against Beth and for me. Time is on your side, bro. I should understand that Beth will eventually file for divorce and try to get back what she's given me. Fine, just so it's not anytime soon. Keep her dangling. Tell her if I agree to hold off on the divorce for a year and give me time to decide what to do. She'll believe you're serious about reconciliation because you're putting off the divorce. The bottom line, in today's world, judges are unfair to husbands in the divorce. The solution, stay away from the judges. We agreed. I tried to get her to agree to take her name off the deed, and we go from there. Ain't gonna be so easy. He asked why the polygraph. I said it's supposed to prove to me that Beth hasn't been unfaithful in the past. Her weekend with Tom was her first time. He laughed and said that Beth will come up with all sorts of excuses why the polygraph is no longer needed. You bet your ass she's going to do that, or find a way to, probably taking the polygraph test, she'll convince herself what she's lying is the truth and come off like she's not lying. If I continue to insist, she'll postpone appointments, hoping I'll eventually let it go. He says he's willing to bet Beth never takes a polygraph and refuses, and will tell me all I need to know about her claim that it was her first go-around. The last thing the attorney told me before I left was to get tested for STDs. He told me not to put that off. Trust me on this. Nothing focuses the mind on getting free of your wife more than being told you should get tested for the STDs she may have given you. Exactamundo. So guys, that is going to wrap up episode 3 here. Going to take a break, and then I'll be back in 2 hours for episode 4 to see where things go in this path, and then obviously later on episode 5. So you got a whole day and early evening of shows here, so stay tuned and you're going to see.